It's great to have you with us today, Chairman. We're so used to calling you Secretary General because you've served as the United Nations Chief for 10 years. It's a bit awkward to refer to you with a different title. You're currently serving as Chairman of the National Council on Climate and Air Quality here in South Korea. But let's start with your career with the UN. As a UN Secretary General, you must have dealt with various global issues ranging from war, development, human rights, and climate change. Looking back at the 10 years now, what were some of the most meaningful projects to you?
There were so many issues which I have dealt with during my time as a Secretary General of the United Nations. However, I would like to tell you that I am very proud that during my time as a Secretary General, the member states of the United Nations have adopted Agenda 2030 and Sustainable Development Goals with the 17 goals. And more importantly, the Paris Climate Change Agreement. These two important international visions presented by the United Nations were adopted in September and December, respectively, of 2015. This will cover whole the spectrums of humanity as well as our planet Earth. So I believe that particularly Sustainable Development Goals are the ones which have been most ambitious and most far-reaching vision the United Nations has ever presented to the world. The main philosophical theme of Agenda 2030 is that there should be no one who should suffer from abject poverty. There should be no one who will have to die needlessly from preventable diseases. And there should be no one whose human dignity and human rights would be violated by whatever reasons. So it's a far-reaching and most ambitious one. And I'm proud that I was part of this process.
Well, the main goal of the council that you're heading now, the National Council on Climate and Air Quality, is tackling the fine dust problem facing South Korea. What kind of motivation was there to shift your attention to environmental issues in particular after such a long career dealing with matters like global security?
I was startled to read the report by Greenpeace that Korea is one of the lowest bottom country in terms of air quality among 36 OECD countries, so-called the rich countries club. Korea stands 35th, and among 100 worst air polluted countries among many thousand OECD cities, there are 44 cities in the Republic of Korea. That's hugely humiliating and not only shocking. Therefore, we must take urgent action. That is why I was asked, when I was asked by President Moon Jae-in to take charge of this National Council on Climate and Air Quality, I thought that I should do more for my country now, after retiring from the United Nations. It's alarming that 17,000 people die prematurely because of these air quality issues. Overall, around the world, 7 million people die, according to WHO. This is unacceptable. Of course, this is a part of a broader climate change phenomena, but particularly for this air quality issues, there is no difference among people what you are. You may be a president or business persons or student, but we breathe same air. So we have to make sure that our community of clean breathing air
You've been an inspiration to many young Koreans, global youth who are willing to work on a global stage for a bigger cause. Since you've led one of the biggest international organizations in the world, what would be the most important qualities to become a good leader?
Having met so many world leaders, political, business, and civil society leaders, I have found that the most important quality to be a good global leader is that somebody should have some good sense of global citizenship. I have met so many world leaders, but it's hard to find real global leader with global citizenship. We experience a lot of problems. Multilateralism is now in disarray, and there's more and more nationalism. The national leaders are erecting walls among people instead of building bridges among people. This is what I have been really speaking out to world leaders. Now, after retirement from the United Nations, I thought that I should do much more, particularly for young people, fostering global citizenship among young people, because they will soon take over the leadership role of our world. Therefore, I'm speaking out to youth that you be global citizens with the global citizenship. More than half of the global population are women. And again, the more than half of the global population are the people with below the age of 24. That means this world is still young. And therefore, we have to empower young people and women. Without empowering these two groups of people, we will never be able to declare that we are living in a peaceful and sustainable world.
Mm-hmm. Future generations seem to be left with more complicated tasks politically, economically, and environmentally. How do you think young people across the world could tackle these issues moving forward?
The pace of development of this world is just moving at lightning speed. And therefore, I'm urging our young generation to be prepared for this changing situation. At the same time, we cannot always depend on science and technology. It's not, but there should be humanity, a human sense. How be a good citizen with the morality. So both sides of education would be very much necessary at this time. Therefore, I'm asking our young leaders, future leaders, be prepared about what is happening, going to happen to all of us. Then at the same time, without addressing current challenges we are facing, climate change, and poverty issues, and human rights issues, or issues of justice, human rights, all these are something our young leaders should keep in mind that is their continuing task.
Well, you're the role model for many global youth. Did you have a role model of yourself as a boy or later on as you expanded your career onto the global stage?
When I was a young boy, young student, I met then the President John F. Kennedy at the White House. That was the most striking and most impressive person whom I met. He already was speaking at the time during the height of Cold War that national boundaries were meaningless, and it was important for young people to have some mind of compassion, looking beyond their national territory and be ready to extend helping hands to other people. That was a compassion. Another person, if I may say, is President Nelson Mandela. everybody knows how great person Nelson Mandela was. After 28 years of imprisonment, he has forgiven all the suppressors, so-called white people. He has forgiven. So this kind of a sense of forgiveness was quite striking again to me. I met him before he died. I'm now honored to serve as one of the elders group, which was created by President Nelson Mandela. This is an informal organization of 12 people, global leaders of the world, including former presidents and myself and Nobel Peace Laureate. We are now trying to live by the spirit, by such far-reaching guidance of Nelson Mandela, for international peace, reconciliation, harmony, and prosperity among the people.
Well, Chairman, we were trying to stay away from any questions on diplomatic or security-related topics, but since it's one of the biggest diplomatic challenges facing South Korea, could we ask you a quick question on the ongoing feud between South Korea and Japan? Could you share with us any thoughts on possible solutions to the heightening tensions?
It's unfortunate in this 21st century that still we are haggling over this past history issues. The leaders of the two countries have agreed upon on several occasions that first Japan should squarely address the past historical legacy, what had happened at the beginning of 20th century. On the basis of Japan squarely facing the past issues, then both Korea and Japan could move ahead with a future-oriented mind. This kind of principles and basic guidelines have not been respected much. That is why we are now facing very serious relationship between Japan and Korea. What I am trying to suggest is that often we say that you may have a choice of having friendship, or even you may have a choice of spouses, but you can never have a choice of geographically neighboring countries. This is what I've been speaking to Israelis and Palestinian leaders and Middle East leaders all the times as a Secretary General. You have to live harmoniously, peacefully, with a mutual respect, regardless of what they may have political problems, but address all these issues with a future-oriented mind. That is the best way. Now, if you talk too much on current issues, you will never be able to solve this problem. So I'm urging both the leaders of Korea and Japan to really sit down together and open their hearts with a sense of neighborliness and friendship, and address the past history issues squarely, and find out what would be better, mutually beneficial for both countries on whatever standard Japan and Korea belong and share same principles and ideals and values of the United Nations Charter. That's a democracy, peace, freedom, human rights. So we are model countries in the world. Both are. Therefore, it's not time to argue against all these bilateral issues. I'm urging the leaders to really sit down together and solve this at the highest level, with a political decision, with a future-oriented mind. Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us, and it was great talking to you and seeing you again.
It's been a great pleasure for me. Thank you.